Anything popular goes under a microscope, but does that lead to inflated and eccentric opinions? With well over 100 million Switches, we get a whole new slew of people jumping into franchises for the first time, and these popular games may have made some tweaks to old design philosophies that made the longtime fans a bit grumpy.
There are more relevant topics to discuss.
Time as old as tale. The Nintendo Switch has an incredible lineup of entries into long-established franchises, and I've dove into these waters before, but let's get a whole new lineup. And just of note, the comments on that video spawned 2 more videos, so I'll do my best to distill down 3 main points for these 3 games, and you do your best in the comments below, expanding on those points or even new ones. Maybe you'll spawn new videos like Chrono here. The new Triforce of Nintendo Switch is Metroid Dread, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Let's start with the dreaded price. The main discourse I can pinpoint against this excellent game, yes I love it, is the price. Knowing that Nintendo games generally keep their value, shelling out $60 for a 2D game seems like it's too much for a lot of people. Metroid fans, yeah, you're going to go out there and spend the cash, but a lot of this comes down to the money equals hours argument, which, to be fair, in some cases I can see where this is a justifiable reason. Not always, but hear me out. I buy lots of games. I play lots of games. If you're a very busy adult with kiddos and gerbils and mounds of National Geographic magazines laying on the coffee table, you might be playing the occasional free-to-play game and buying maybe only 1 to 2 games a year. Money investment and time investment would be a more crucial factor. And we see Metroid Dread there for $60 for a 12-hour game. Sounds pretty great to me. $5 an hour. That's some good entertainment value right there. Yes, it did take me over 12 hours to make my way through Dread, and I died how many times? Holy Odin, I'm a noob. Now there's the factor of replayability. A lot of Metroid games have that seductress of a beast, that darn percentage right there staring at me. 47%? Come on. So replayability does add value to that above scenario. You get your money's worth playing all the difficulties and trying to get 100% of the items. As a bonus, you get to revel in Samus being the coolest she's ever been. Look at this. Wish I could be that nonchalantly cool. Circling back again, Metroid fans have this zeal about them. They are loyal followers, and they're going to spread that message. Unless you bring up Super Metroid and try to compare any other entry to it, that's a topic for another day perhaps. But outside our fan base, they see a $60 2D game with not the most appealing graphics. I think it looks gorgeous in motion, but I mean, if you're not actually playing Dread, I can see how it just looks dark and dingy. That could be an immediate turnoff. And I think it's vibrant and atmospheric as all heck, but that's not going to make somebody that's not into the Metroid probably shell out $60 for a game that may or may not be their shtick. And this is exacerbated if Nintendo Switch is not your primary console. That dilutes that even more, because you're looking at $60 for all these crazy AAA games. They're going to be more hesitant to drop that amount of cash for this excellent game. I've seen some people also not really like the Emmys, but I guess those are controversial too. I think they put Dread in Dread. The chase music, the crazy low threshold of escape when you get nabbed by them, whew, that encapsulates this experience. There's a lot more love there, but the controversy of people getting in the door, that's the one we got to figure out. Also, it's sold over millions of copies, so that's great. Keep it up. Keep it up. A fellow podcaster whose opinion I respect, I'm going to sum up with my own words, but they alluded to that combat in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 plays out the exact same way. You just are waiting to get to chain attacks. They did cite there was one boss battle that changed that up, but that's a spoiler, so I'm not going to put it here. I'll link Dave's Tales from the Backlog podcast below if you want more Xenoblade 3 goodness. Also, I've been on his show twice, Parasite Eve and Xenogears. What a combo that is for your listening pleasure. I did say fellow podcaster. Bits of Time also is a podcast. I did 4 episodes on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Check them out. I've also seen this focus elsewhere, not just on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but the series as a whole. Monotony. It plays itself. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had better combat. I think I agree with that one. I think where Xenoblade Chronicles 3 shines is I just love this ensemble cast, all on the field at once, causing just absolute chaos. It's great. Sometimes I feel like if someone was watching over my shoulder while I was playing this, it would look like utter nonsense. Heck, even sometimes it does look like that to me. There's just numbers and menus and UI and things just happening all over the place. And I don't disparage anybody that came from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to 3's combat system, and it seemed a little lacking in some areas. But I also think this is a wider issue. There's definitely some attrition going on here with the battle system. From Xenoblade 1 to 2 to Torna to Future Connected, and now this bad boy, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's quite a bit. Knowing that I played Torna, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Future Connected before Xenoblade 3 came out, I got my fill. Still, I don't mind the combat. I actually like it. I think the class system's varied enough that adds little tweaks to the system. Yeah, you can just, wait for that chain attack to fill up. And yeah, you can wait and you're probably going to get through all the fights just fine. That is one way to play this game, but that's also kind of how the game presents itself. I still found it satisfying for certain classes to then navigate my characters around to the side of a character and do extra damage, or go from behind, or have a character buffing everybody. I really appreciated Lands being the signifier class, just waving around that flag. Oh, that was great. The battle system does play out for itself if you wanted to, or if you're waiting just for the chain attacks, yeah, you're not doing much on the in-between. It's a little bit more of a laid-back approach. It works for me sometimes because I can focus more on the excellent characters in this world, but you still have to go through the monotony of battling if this is not your thing. There's a lot of hours stacked up against this if you've come from the entire series, so that familiarity can be a crutch, but I also can see it as being more comforting. More of the same isn't always bad. With that said, whenever they make the next Xeno game, whether it's Blade or they choose a new moniker, I'm ready for a radical change-up in gameplay. Will I play it if it's a tweak between Xenoblade 1 or 2 or 3, and it's more of the same? Darn right. So, that my opinion on that doesn't really matter, does it? Overall, I like this battle system, and this game does have other problems with it, which maybe I could go into another video, but overall, this isn't a huge stickler for me. Maybe it is to you, though. Alright, let's end this with probably the most divisive and successful Fire Emblem game to date. This is going to be interesting. I think you already know what the topic is going to be. The dreaded weapon triangle versus not. Yes, smooching up to some ladies and gents being a more major focus definitely also is kind of controversial, but I think it comes back to the weapons triangle. Things you do need to know. Fire Emblem Three Houses is my first Fire Emblem game. Well, I did play Heroes, but let's forget about that for now. I've since played a few other entries, but what gets the most vitriol when you ever talk about liking Three Houses is that the gameplay is bad or it is a far cry from past Fire Emblem games. Here's my thing. Instead of enhancing the combat, I think the weapon triangle simplifies it. There's a right counter to every unit. It's Pokemon one-on-one battling to me. In Three Houses, I can grab my axe-swinging maniac Edelgard, best girl, and decimate everyone. But that also means basically anyone can also counter me. I don't technically have to worry if it's a lance or a sword that I'm fighting with my axe. Most likely I'm going to beat them because Edelgard's the best. That does change up, obviously, with flying being weak to arrows. That makes logical sense to me. But still, sometimes I could use upgraded flying Edelgard on a Wyvern to decimate even those pesky archers. So yes, there's still less optimal pairings, of course. But knowing that there is no weapon triangle and I'm surveying the land, I think I can plan out my attacks in multiple ways. I think that expands the scope and that doesn't make it as limiting. I can see some of the traditional Fire Emblem thinking. You have to plan out your squadron a bit more carefully to make sure your weaknesses are covered when you're scanning the battlefield. But doesn't that also mean when you see the enemy on the map, there's basically way less optimal ways to tackle the routes? In my head, you're kind of getting the strategy up front, right? You're putting a lot more thought before you hit that fight menu, but it's more rigid, it's not as flexible. Because when you input terrain and the weapon triangle weaknesses, you're obviously not going to throw certain enemies against other ones, where in Three Houses, I can just kind of navigate everything and flip-flop everything around. This whole concept, I really do need your help for a succinct explanation, because honestly, I'm really not seeing the advantages of the weapon triangle in the gameplay department. I look back at one of my favorite games of all time, Starcraft. That is a strategy game, just like Fire Emblem, so I think there's some comparison. A Zergling against a Dragoon, bad idea. Bunch of Zerglings against a Dragoon, good idea. Obviously, there's a lot more nuance than that. The Zergling has low HP, the Dragoon has high, has the shields. The Zergling's faster, but the Dragoon can smack it as it's coming along. I don't know, I just want to throw StarCraft into this. Actually, it just comes down to the weaknesses of all those units is more about pairing them together with another unit. But there's also the versatility. A Hydralisk can cover ground and air, kind of like that's the Fire Emblem Three Houses. You're a Hydralisk. An old school weapon triangle, you're a Protoss Zealot. You for sure need a backup to help you out. Fire Emblem Three Houses, yeah, you can pair up your weaknesses if, less minimal than before, or you can just try and brute force it and make your way through. I like those options. I plan to play more of the older school options of Fire Emblem as I go along, but I've experienced the weapon triangle, and I like Three Houses' more open approach. And that's what it is for now. That's all there is, but if you've enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button because we have a back catalog of goodness. If you don't like this, hit that subscribe button so you can follow along and crap on my opinion in the comments below, or a future video. And maybe you'll be the inspiration for another, but I do like nicer comments too, so please do that as well.
But I am strong!
If you're craven, you just haven't gotten enough of these opinions, watch this next for more popular Nintendo Switch game opinions. Are they bad?